Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nairobi Health Show with Don Brown. Don, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
You are a very interesting fellow. Your biography, your history, and now what you're doing, I've been really excited to chat with you. And I first of all, thank you for taking the time to be on.
Oh, my pleasure.
And for those of you that don't know Don is a serial entrepreneur. He started 3 software companies. The last one sold for, was it 1.4 billion, Don?
Yep.
That's a lot of American dollars.
Yes, yeah, it was. It was 20 years worth of effort and a fun ride. So a company that I'd grown to about 2,200 people with offices around the world. So it was a blast.
Well, it's interesting you say that because honestly, I think that many people's kind of vision of a software entrepreneur is someone who works 80 hours a week and has no time for family or health. We picture a real go-getter, someone driving and cracking the whip, and with a very heavy on the business side and on money, and not so much on health. So here you are, obviously on a health show. And so, if you wouldn't mind backtracking and taking this little vision I just painted of what I assume many people may, think of a serial software entrepreneur. What was your life like while you were building 3 successful software companies?
Well, I think it's important to understand that I never set out to be a software entrepreneur or a business person of any type. My dad was an 8th grade educated Army sergeant from the hills of Kentucky. So I knew nothing of the business world or entrepreneurship or anything. I was a physics major undergrad, and I really thought that I would be a biomedical researcher. I got into an MD PhD program in Indiana University at the IU School of Medicine, and figured I'd be working in some dingy basement lab at Eli Lilly the rest of my life.
Okay.
I kind of unexpectedly switched the graduate part of my studies, the non-medical part, from biochemistry to computer science, which was at that point a pretty young discipline.
What year would this be?
Oh, God, I'm embarrassed to say, close to 1980.
Okay, but I just asked so that we have some context for what the computer industry is like at this time, right?
It was nascent. Microsoft and Apple were tiny companies. Of course, this is decades before Google and some of the others. It was a pretty young science, but I fell in love with it. And while I was finishing up medical school, I had a buddy who contacted me about writing some software for his car dealership to compute finance payments, which I knew absolutely zilch about. So I went to the library, got a business math book and wrote a little algorithm. And, one thing led to another, and that turned into a company that we eventually sold to EDS and General Motors. And so that was my first taste of success in this industry. And so I turned around and did it again and started a second company called Software Artistry, using some of the work I'd done in AI, fairly primitive AI in grad school. And that company became the first software company in the state of Indiana ever to go public. And was ultimately acquired by IBM for a couple $100 million.
And what year was that?
Oh, I think mid 80s, sometime, or late 80s, sometime I guess that it went public, maybe 88-ish. And then I decided to leave and start yet another company called Interactive Intelligence. And that's the one that became actually the third software company in the state of Indiana ever to go public. It went public back in 1999 and was acquired in 2016 for $1.4 billion by a big private equity-based California company called Genesis Telecommunications.
Okay, and during all this time then, so really you were writing your own book. You weren't following something you'd heard from Silicon Valley, none of this stuff. You're out in Indiana. And so what was your, and I know from learning about you and reading about you that you've had this interest in health.
Yeah.
Obviously being a medical major tells us a lot about your interests. And so what was your health journey like during this time?
Oh, kind of up and down. There were periods when I worked hard and stayed in shape. And then there were periods where, I was working 80, 100, 120 hour weeks, and I'd say in kind of my 40s, maybe. And I let myself go a little bit. I got kind of pudgy and, I had this weird realization kind of out of the blue one day, and it's almost embarrassing, because it's just so obvious. But I realized that I was waiting for some magical day when everything was going to be easier and I was going to have time to do all the things that I was putting off, Like next quarter, next year, next something, some magical time is going to come. And man, then I'm going to get in great shape. I'm going to, pay more attention to my kids. I'm going to, put time into my hobbies and stuff. And it was like a bolt from the blue. I just realized, I'm waiting for something that is never going to come. And I better start today. This is a total illusion, a total fabrication on my part to think that there's going to be some magical point in the future. I've got to carve out time today. I've got to prioritize, these things, my own health, being there for my kids' ball games or, those sorts of things. And so, I don't remember, I was maybe 40, 45, and it just lit a fire under me. I just realized I can't procrastinate on this stuff anymore. I've got to start today. I've got to start deciding what's important, carving out time, making sure those things get done, still, work like a demon and everything. But, I did start to dial it back a little bit. So anyways, that was kind of, something that really affected a big change in my life. And I started exercising, lost a little weight, started to feel better, was more productive, all the things that I think I should have known, but didn't. And
so from there to today, you obviously you had some change in priorities that you've mentioned, but you continue to build your business meantime very successfully. You have a massive buyout in 2016.
Yeah.
And logic says retire.
Oh, I've got 8 kids, and that's what they said too. They said, "Come on, Dad. What else do you have to prove?" Because I was still the largest shareholder, the largest individual shareholder at Interactive, so I was able to walk away with a lot of money. But I don't know. I felt like there was something left undone. That I just wasn't ready to walk away. I felt there was something in my life, as corny as it sounds, that, that I was supposed to do that I hadn't done, and I just did not feel satisfied. And I think this also manifested a few years earlier. Another way I stunned my kids, I announced to them that I was going back to grad school. I was probably about 60 years old. And I said, there's a really cool master's degree in biotechnology at Johns Hopkins, and I'm enrolling. And they go, Dad, what the hell? Why? Why would you want to? At your age, you're going to be the oldest person. You're going to be double the oldest person, the age of the next oldest person in the class. And I said, yeah, I don't care. And for me, it was kind of a chance to compete against the East Coast hot shots and, see how would, the schmuck from Indiana, do against these, these best and brightest at a school like Johns Hopkins. But I just had a blast. And it was really a chance. That program was really cool because it led you really through the scientific underpinnings of medicine. So starting with biochemistry, molecular biology, cell biology, and then on into more advanced topics like stem cells and cancer and immunotherapy. And I was just like a kid in a candy store. It was just so cool to see the breakthroughs that had happened. I still feel pretty young. It doesn't seem that long ago that I graduated from med school, but that was 1985. And subsequent to that date, that was before the Human Genome Project, before much of any understanding of stem cells, of how the immune system works. So what the explosion in knowledge the last 30 years has just been unbelievable. And so really it was that experience that made me kind of rekindled my interest in the life sciences. So when I did have the big exit in 2016, I did two things. One thing, I took $30 million and I gave it to my alma mater, the IU School of Medicine, to start a new immunotherapy center for treating cancer.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, something I was really passionate about. I wanted to show my kids that, my life wasn't just about making money, that I wanted to give back, in some real way. But then the second thing was, maybe out of a lack of imagination, I just started another company. This is what I know how to do. And so I started a company called Lifomic, and I had, roughly a dozen or so of the senior developers from Interactive who, when they heard I was starting something new, they made it very clear to me that they were coming and I had no choice in the matter. And I told them, guys, you're stupid. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. You're walking away from a great company, a very sure thing, and you come with me, and this is the worst possible way to start a company, which is to have money but no clear idea of what you're going to do. But they said, no, we want to be part of it. We want to take be part of your swing for the fences, and so it's just been a blast. So in the ensuing 5 years, we're up to about 110 people or so now, and just doing all sorts of fun things. I'm just like a kid in a candy store. It's wonderful.
Well, I've got this product here.
Yes, looks familiar.
And I love it. And I'm totally embarrassed because I pride myself on mindfulness and meditation. Okay, I'm a practitioner. I attend a Sangha once a week, and I have a practice almost unbroken now of about 5 years of daily meditation. And today, the day that I'm doing the podcast with you and I'm exposing my soft underbelly of health, and I have zero, because we had our men's league, golf men's league here today, played 18 holes, and we normally play in the afternoon, so I get my life all in order in the morning.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So today we changed things up, and so I haven't got my meditation minutes, but I've got my servings of veggies. And I've walked, I walked the 18 holes. You'd be proud of me.
Sure. Very good. That's excellent.
And so I probably got my 10,000 steps there easily, probably 5 miles. I don't know.
Yeah.
7.5 hours of sleep, which isn't terrific, but it's better than.
That's not bad.
It's on the low side. And just started my fast just before this podcast. So I love the app. Now, I have been in the health world since full time since 2009, and started in the weight loss side of things. And we had a very successful company very quickly. We just kind of hit a home run out of the gate. I didn't know what I was doing, but we had a product that really sold. It was flying off the shelves. Thousands of customers per month buying our weight loss product. And I'd never had a problem with weight loss. Okay. I've got good genes. I've always been healthy and active and eaten an okay diet for the most part in my past. And so I really didn't understand the difficulty of weight loss, what people really go through. People who have maybe been raised in a situation where they've been overweight since they were in elementary school, and it's extremely difficult and highly emotional and charged, and there's genetics that go into it. And I didn't know any of this. And from there, that business quickly went from my head to my heart. I very quickly was thrilled to have a successful business, but was being introduced to the real world problems as people were hitting our support with, hey, I really like this, but I had my thyroid removed and I just really have a heck of a time. And first of all, does this conflict with this medication? And what about this? And I'm having a real problem with this. And they started hitting me and my support team with all this, and we didn't know what we're doing. So we had to figure it out.
Yep. Well, that's the great thing about being in a startup environment. You just there. Oftentimes, usually there is no playbook, and you just have to figure things out as you go.
Yes, and now that's an interesting point you bring up about a playbook, because I would say in the whole health industry in 2009 there wasn't much of a playbook for anybody. Now I've got my health certification from Precision Nutrition since there that I have a lot of respect for. I did their program as a client, and then I became a coach. Mm-hmm. And what I'm seeing, Don, and this is where I'm doing this backstory to lead up back into this app that you've created, that from my rough start that I just described to today, I am seeing the science really, really coming together where everyone is starting to understand sleep. We didn't even talk about sleep in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s. Everyone's talking about intermittent fasting. Everyone is saying we don't eat enough vegetables. Yep. And so I figured all this out along my own path over the last 12 years. And then I see someone like yourself jump into the health space and kind of nail it with this app. That was really my impression. Is wow,
thank you.
These guys really nailed it, right? Like I've got a PDF I print that I give to all my clients with the 7 top principles of health, and you've got 5 of them right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. It's unfortunately, it's a lot of it. There's a lot of it that our grandparents and great grandparents knew and acted on, more successfully than we do. Most of these things, they're not, now we understand the scientific underpinnings, which is, exciting for people like you and me who want to know why these things work. But, we've known for a long time that exercise, good nutrition, taking steps to just relax and clear our heads. Even things like intermittent fasting. I remember my grandmother, we would have dinner and she would say, hey, everybody, the kitchen is closed. There is no snacking, no nothing. Don't come back in here until, breakfast tomorrow. And so, even as kids, we were doing 12-hour or so nightly intermittent fasting. It's just that now we have a better understanding of the molecular mechanisms underlying these, why these things work.
Tell me how you arrived at the 5 you've chosen.
Well, so during my program at Johns Hopkins, backing up even before that, I had heard about caloric restriction. I remember hearing years ago about some of David Sinclair's work at Harvard, and the discovery of resveratrol, which activated this weird family of genes, the sirtuins. This evidence that initially was shown in yeast, but then went up the evolutionary ladder, right on up to primates, that showed that restricted restricting their caloric intake, giving them roughly 60, 70% of normal for their lives, had dramatic effects in terms of increasing longevity, but especially decreasing incidence of chronic diseases, like cancer, diabetes, and these god awful disorders of aging. And I thought it was cool, but I thought, I could never do that. I could never live on 1,200 calories a day. I like beer. I like pizza. I'm from Kentucky. We eat sausage, gravy, and biscuits. I could never, just live on carrot sticks and celery. I couldn't do it.
Right.
So I thought it was cool, but I thought it was impractical. But then at Johns Hopkins, I don't remember which class it would have been in, but I tripped across a paper by a guy named Walter Longo at USC, and it showed some really compelling evidence that you didn't have to fast, you didn't have to have permanent caloric restriction. You could do it periodically. You could just, every other day or, for certain periods of time. And I thought, okay, now that's something I think I could do. If you tell me that, just, compress your calories into an 8-hour period, which is essentially what I try to do. Have, breakfast at 10-ish and, finish dinner at 6 p.m.-ish, and then don't eat anything or drink anything after that. It's not that hard. And during the eating window, I still try to eat, reasonably well, but I still have beer, I still have pizza, on occasion, even sausage, gravy, and biscuits. Yeah. So I just got excited. This is something I could do. And furthermore, I ended up reading probably 100 academic papers. And what was really cool for me was I could understand the molecular mechanism, that this wasn't just do this because it's good for you. Well, why is it good for me? Well, we just know it's good for you. Well, that's not very satisfying to me. You tell me that, I'm just going to be suspicious. But if you show me, okay, this is the molecular signaling pathway that's being activated. These are the genes that are turning on. This is what they do. Once I understand that mechanism, then I go, oh, okay, well, now, now that makes sense. And what's really, so it really kind of started with intermittent fasting. And actually, I'm publishing a book this fall that covers this topic. It just broaches into the larger topic of hormesis. If you're familiar with that term.
I'm not. No.
Oh. Yeah, hormesis is cool. Or it's just a fancy word. The underlying concept is something that I think we all know kind of intuitively, that when we push ourselves without breaking ourselves, we get stronger. And, you've heard the old adage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. So we're finding exercise. The phytochemicals in plants, especially in brightly colored, berries and, other plants, they're mild toxins. We tend to blithely say, oh, they're antioxidants. They're good because they're antioxidants. That's really has very little to do with their benefit. They're poisons. They're tiny mitochondrial poisons. You have to remember our mitochondria derive from bacteria. They're the descendants of bacteria. And so these same sorts of insecticides, poisons produced by plants protect themselves, actually are very mild toxins to our mitochondria. And so what happens with all these different forms of stress? We see it with cold stress, heat stress, radiation exposure, hypoxia due to altitude exposure, literally any type of stress that doesn't go too far, that doesn't push you into some bad state. Your body at a cellular level, it overcompensates. It goes, holy crap, there's something bad's happening. So in the case of intermittent fasting, it's like, oh man, maybe this dude is out traversing the Sahara, in Africa, and he may not find something to eat for weeks.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the cells start cleaning up their act. There's a Japanese researcher who won the Nobel Prize in 2016 for the discovery of a process called autophagy, or self-eating. And, so the idea is, when times are good, as they are in our normal societies, we've got food all over the place, we're not stressed, we can take it easy, and our cells just kind of kick back and say, don't clean up those misfolded proteins over there. Just sweep them under the rug, and we'll deal with them later. But under times of stress, the cell alarm bells start to go off, and it's like, man, we got to clean up our act. We don't know, we may die here. This stupid dude is, not eating, or he's doing bad things, and so the cell overcompensates, and so that little stress elicits an even stronger response that ends up being beneficial. And we're finding a lot of diseases associated with aging. Two great examples are Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. They're really largely due to the accumulation of misfolded proteins that just never get cleared away.
Okay, so I'm going to pause you there for a minute.
Yeah, please.
I don't want to leave anyone behind as we get into some of the science right here.
Sure.
So I'm going to back up a little bit. The question that I asked Don, for those of you listening just a couple of minutes ago, is about the evolution of the 5 elements in his app. And I didn't do a good job of clarifying what those are. For those of you who can see this on YouTube or Facebook, this is the app right here. You can see I have accumulated 24,000 life points today, Don, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Pretty good.
And
I think you got me beat for today. That's not bad at all. I think I'm sitting at about 15,000 right now.
Okay, so there's a little bit of really great feedback to make you feel good as you enter these things. And the 5 things are how many servings of vegetables you've had.
Fruits, so it's really healthy plants.
Healthy plants, wonderful. Thank you for that correction. Exercise, meditative and mindfulness moments, sleep, and hours of intermittent fasting. Those are the 5 elements that are tracked in the app. Now, as you got into what you were just telling us, we might have left a couple people behind because you went from the stress and explaining those things and everything right into autophagy. Now, and this podcast would go on for hours, which of course we can't do.
Sure.
But at the same time, this issue of autophagy is important, and I actually have questions about it because this is new science.
Yeah.
Now. I've had multiple people on my podcast talking about fasting. I've watched the fasting documentaries online. I'm very interested in fasting, as are you. The experts are not all agreed yet on just what is happening when. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's some people now. To me, autophagy, and Don, correct me if you have a different understanding, but one of the biggest benefits of autophagy is at some point after which you've stopped eating, the body can go to work getting rid. You've already mentioned proteins. Also, there's pathogens and carcinogens and other toxins in the bloodstream and the cells. So this issue of autophagy and possibly autophagy is combined with just general cleansing of the body, right? The body's very good at cleansing itself. So there's some people say, oh, well, autophagy doesn't happen it starts at 24 hours. Some people don't think it starts to the 48th hour of a long, long fast. And honestly, and I'm happy you're shaking your head at this right now, because as a health coach, I'm trying to keep things as dead simple as possible. I don't want to introduce anything into someone's life that they can't sustain for the rest of their life.
That's a great attitude. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so for me, I've been led to understand that it takes the body roughly 4 hours to process that last meal, and then from that point, it is kind of using the energy and the nutrients it's got to be rebuilding systems and whatnot, and then around 8 hours or so, it goes to work cleansing. Now, of course, if this is happening from about a 6 o'clock dinner, let's just say we stopped eating at 6 o'clock, then we can imagine that by 10. Which is around when we're hopefully going to bed, ideally somewhere in that range, that our stomach is done processing the food. So now we're ready to sleep.
Yeah.
Melatonin is high because our hormones are able to work properly because our body's not working totally on food, right? Because we've digested it. So now the melatonin's high. Now we're sleeping and the body's cleansing, and the hormones, estrogen, testosterone, HGH, those are all going up.
Mm-hmm.
So we wake up in this really great state. And meantime, somewhere in there, autophagy kicks in. So we got this super cleansing effect going on. So take what I just said and run with it, Don, your understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that very few biological processes are binary. So there's almost never just some flip of a switch that, you could say at hour X, before autophagy was off and now it's on, I just had dinner. I've probably got some low level of autophagy even now going on. But what the evidence I've seen, the way and all these are, gross averages. We have to say that if you're a person on a ketogenic diet and you're not eating carbs, your sort of, say, ketosis timing is going to be different than somebody else. But so with that, keeping in mind, these are broad averages. I don't want anybody in your audience to get too hung up, just.
Great point.
That caveat. But the way I think of it is that after a meal, for about 12 hours, you're running first on the energy from the meal, and then on the glycogen, the carbs stored in your liver. You got roughly 100 grams of glycogen in your liver. And so for roughly 12 hours, that combination of what you last ate and the stored glycogen in your liver will run you. And so I finished dinner at 6 p.m. So that means by 6 a.m., now the battery's running kind of low. You've used up your food from your last meal, probably, on average again. You probably exhausted the supply of glycogen in your liver. And now your body's looking around and going, wait, I need energy. What energy source do I have? Well, I've got a good one. I've got all this fat that even the leanest among us, have probably weeks worth of fat deposits. And so the body, instructs those fat cells to start breaking down those triglycerides. And that's great for most organs. Those long fatty acids don't cross over the blood-brain barrier very well. And so what the liver does is absorb some of those and chop them up into little smaller pieces called ketones. And those ketones are little 3-carbon units that can pass the blood-brain barrier. And it turns out the brain loves ketones. The brain will run well on ketones. So that's the kind of the sequence that I think of. 12 hours. You have no ketones essentially, or very, very low levels of very low levels of autophagy, probably some still, but minimal autophagy. So by about 12 hours, now your body's starting to tap into your fat. It's starting to break some of that down to make ketones. And by roughly 16 to 18 hours, now you're in full ketosis. You start measuring your ketone levels, and again, very variable depending upon what you last ate and all that. But it's a nice average. By 16 to 18 hours, you're in fairly heavy fat burning, good ketosis. You can feel it. You can measure it with, Keto Mojo or other types of devices. But you can feel it. You can start to feel a little ketone buzz. Your brain just loves ketones, and I think many of us find that we think even better when we're in ketosis. And then after a few hours of ketosis, and what the general rule of thumb we give is 24 hours. That by 24 hours now, autophagy is really It didn't just go from 0 to 1, but now it's gone from 60 to 90 or, something. It's really ramping up, and certainly that'll continue, for longer fast. But that's the sort of schedule that I think is easy for most people to understand, and based on the papers I've read, it comports pretty well with the scientific data.
How long of fasts are you doing? I understand you're doing intermittent fasting daily. Yeah. Are you doing a longer fast on a regular basis?
Yeah, what I'll do is I try once a week ish to do a 24-hour fast.
Okay.
Which some people think is, oh my God, how long? That's almost impossible. It's skipping breakfast and lunch. And it just cracks me up. We had one user of our app, some lady who wrote in and said, I'm just scared to go to work before I eat, that, I'm afraid I'll crash my car or something. No, I really, it's really not that bad. I mean, you think about our ancestors, they had to operate, do tremendous things, cross mountains, deserts, fight wars. And, they didn't have an Egg McMuffin before they went off and did it.
They went long periods without food.
They had to. And
now, of course, none of us like that.
No,
the thing is, we don't have to.
Exactly. And that's what that's one of the biggest things, is starting to reinterpret. The stomach produces a peptide hormone called ghrelin that should be called growlin, because it's what gives us those stomach growls. And of course, we don't like those. But right. When you start to do intermittent fasting, your relationship to hunger changes. It's like, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I can feel my stomach. That's not so bad. And now I know that ghrelin is promoting the production of a neuronal growth factor called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is making me smarter. That's good for me. And so now that hunger pang, it's like, I kind of like that, that hunger pang isn't just this obnoxious thing that's doing me no good. That's a sign that my body is burning fat, that I'm producing new neurons in my brain. So it just, your attitude toward these things changes. And so much of it, you're exactly right. So much of it stems from this modern conception that we're never supposed to be uncomfortable. And that's
right.
Really one of the big points of hormesis, and that I try to make in my book, is be uncomfortable. Go hike and go take a run in the rain. If it's snowing, go hike. Don't just say, oh, it's cold outside. I just want to sit and veg out with Netflix. Go do especially if you could do this, maybe, go to altitude and do this. Take a sauna, which isn't all that unpleasant either, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, and there have been many studies of the positive effects for Finnish people who take regular saunas. But the same thing is true for ice therapy, cryotherapy. All these little stresses are actually good for us.
I've had an experience with that, Don, and I've never heard someone say it quite so. I like how you're just putting it out there, like, go do uncomfortable stuff, right? We're not told that very often.
No, we're not.
But I had a guy on my podcast do a simplified Wim Hof method. You're probably familiar with Wim Hof, the Iceman, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, well, just, you can get a certain amount of benefit by just having cold showers. Now, no one likes cold showers, but I started turning down my shower to cold and trying to time about 2 minutes in the cold water. Now, in Utah in the winter, it can get cold, right? We're talking very cold water. And in the summer, it's just not that hard because the water just doesn't get that cold. But one day I had this epiphany. I thought, Well, for one thing, the shower is taking too long. I kind of want to get on with my day. You know what I mean? I'm not one to dilly-dally in the bathroom. And for me, the bathroom is a quick stop that I got to make between the gym and real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one day I was like, well, I don't have time for this. So I just turned on the cold water, got in the stupid thing and had a shower. I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. And for about the last year and a half, probably, I just turn on the cold water, get in the shower. Now,
awesome.
It's not hard anymore. And what's cool, Don, is that I've acclimated myself to cold. There's days where I used to put on a jacket to go take the dog for a walk.
Yeah.
That I don't anymore.
Yep.
It's quite a noticeable thing. It's like, hey, I used to be cold when I did this.
Yep.
Now I'm not cold.
It's wonderful that you do that. I think you've discovered something really important on your own there, that you're activating another form of hormesis. So it's another little stressor that your body is going, oh my gosh, we better, we've got to clean up our act. We don't know if Dave is going to be freezing in the Arctic tundra. The cells don't know you're in a shower in a suburban house.
Nice.
Fine. All they know is, oh gosh, it's cold.
It's cold. What do we do?
We don't know how long it's going to be this way. So we've got to take countermeasures.
Yeah.
And so, it's just everywhere you turn, even psychological stresses we're finding, again, not, crazy, stress from, treating an elderly parent with a degenerative disease or something, but the little stresses, all these things are just good for us. And it is funny how modern society pushes us toward a temperature controlled bubble, where we're never hungry. We're supposed to graze, right? We're supposed to just eat little bits all the time. We're supposed to use, all the convenience equipment to never have to lift a finger to do anything we don't want to do. And that's what kills us. It's comfort that kills us. This old notion that, somebody, I'm 65, that I should be on a rocking chair, on the porch, just watching the sunset. There's no quicker way to make me die than to do that.
Yeah.
So we're like sharks. We've got to move. We've got to be challenged. And we do that. We're just so much better off. We're happier, we're healthier. And so, we've really tried to reflect that in the app. The other thing that we're big believers of in the app is, my medical peers have just done a lousy job trying to preach to people what not to do. Stop doing this, stop eating that. And most of us, especially when it comes to food, we just tune it out because, part of my culture is biscuits and gravy. And so you really, doctor, you want me to, go against a couple hundred years of my culture? It's like, screw you, dude. And so now the mindset is no, we're not going to tell you what not to do. What we are going to tell you to do is get 5 servings of healthy plants into your body every day. If you do that, you will, that will largely compensate for a lot of the less healthy things that we do. My relatives in Kentucky have really picked up on this, and I've had some be very successful with weight loss and other health improvement in a very unhealthy part of the country, probably one of the most unhealthy parts of the country, by saying, you can continue to eat your cultural foods, fried chicken, and, the things that we love in that part of the country, but God, have some green beans and, maybe have some watermelon for dessert. And it's not that much of a hardship.
Yeah. Well, I love the app. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of articles. Yep.
We're big believers on education and providing scientific support for everything that we recommend.
And the app is my only real exposure to lifeapps.io. There's other things you're doing as well, correct?
Well, yeah. So we started the first part of our business really was building a cloud platform that could aggregate all forms of health-related data, especially for cancer patients.
Okay.
So we started off working with the IU School of Medicine, and that's now moved over into the clinical side into IU Health. And so they use our platform to aggregate these big data sets to understand, the genes that are driving a cancer and to figure out how best to treat that cancer. So the cloud platform came first. Okay. And then we decided we'll build a little wellness-related mobile app. We were thinking we'll get 5,000 or 10,000 people. It'll be a little free app, and we'll get some nice load testing out of it because they'll be using the cloud platform for account management and data storage. And I was spent a lot of load testing with more than 3.5 million downloads of the app. So it's worked out really well. So what we've done is, start off with the cloud platform, then the mobile app, and we've taken the combination and used it to create kind of a next generation corporate wellness offering, as well as kind of a personal health improvement subscription program, kind of if you're familiar with Noom, we say kind of a Noom on steroids, a much more scientifically based Noom that's focused not just on weight loss, but on other aspects of health improvement.
That's in this app, or that's a different app?
It uses the same app. It's a subscription service that uses that app, and we're just big believers in making things simple. So
I upgraded. I'm giving you. What is it? $3?
Yeah,
$3 a month.
Yes.
And you know what else I did, Don? Is I'm kind of a biohacker personally, and about 5 years ago, I did my first blood work to do a nutritional panel and really figure out where I was at with vitamins and minerals. I'm a supplement seller, right? Dirobi.com.
Yeah.
And all of our supplements are based on trying to fill in deficiencies or take care of certain symptoms, whatever the case may be. So they're all what we call functional supplements. And so I had to do a lot of research into to create a multivitamin, for example. What are most people deficient in? What it would be a functional multivitamin? And I'm my own guinea pig, right? So vitamins and minerals are key to me. I want to make sure I'm not deficient in the basic building blocks of nutrition. So anyways, I've done multiple different ones. And because I have podcasts and a company, I'm always experimenting. I've never done the same test twice, actually. My last one was in February. I did a vitamin mineral panel, which was very interesting. And I saw where I was at with that. Well, then I saw yours, and so you've got one for about $100, which is a great price.
Yeah. We negotiated with Quest, and we've got a blood test that measures 72 different biomarkers, lipids, inflammation levels, C-reactive protein, things like that, vitamin levels like vitamin D and B12 levels. A bunch of really fascinating information.
Yeah. So I haven't got my results, but I paid I think it's 100 even, right? Or 99, whatever, right?
Yep.
I paid that. I right away got an email giving me the local clinic information.
Yep.
I went over there, and a very nice nurse sucked 6 vials of blood out of me. I mean, I was like, that's a lot. I mean, this is what it felt like. That's maybe too big, but she's like, "Oh, this won't hurt you, you big baby. I've taken 30 of these things."
I'm sure you could spare it.
So she took this, and they've mailed them off, I think, to a lab in Arizona.
Yeah. It's usually it's sent at the nearest Quest location. But you get the results back pretty quickly, and we help you interpret those results. But then in this 13-month subscription program that we call Life Ascent, we have you do that a few different times because it could be a big motivator to people. You know how it is. Well, you haven't had a weight problem. For those of us who have had a weight problem before, sometimes it's frustrating as all get out because like the first month, you're eating like a rabbit, you're exercising like a fiend, and
nothing happens.
You gain 2 pounds, and you go, what? But sometimes what you can do is a blood test can reveal things like your insulin level. That your insulin level is dropping because you're improving your insulin sensitivity. Your, say, C-reactive protein markers of inflammation are going down. So you may start to see positive changes on the inside before you see them in the mirror or on the scale.
Right.
And that's a tremendous psychological motivation for people that, okay, all right, well, something, good is going on, even if, I'm not seeing it on the scale yet. And you will see it on the scale, but sometimes there's just a little bit of a lag.
Oh, a lot. Absolutely. And I've seen this. I mean, we've got over 100,000 customers.
Wow.
Weight loss customers. And I'm telling you, I have seen the craziest stories you can imagine. I've seen people completely change their lifestyle who need to lose 100 pounds, completely change their lifestyle, verified by their loved ones in their home that they have cut out a lot of the bad foods they're eating. They're hitting the treadmill. They're doing everything right for 90 days and not lose a pound. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And then in that next month 4, they lose 35 pounds doing exactly the same thing. And for whatever reason, the body is a very mysterious contraption, and it's very complex.
It is, and it's very good at reaching a new normal. So over a period of time, you gain weight, your body makes epigenetic changes, and it has a new set point, right? And now to change that set point, you've got to do a prolonged sort of change before your body finally goes, okay, I guess this is the new normal. I guess I'll now reset to this. But you mentioned it earlier, I think a really critical point, and that's that you shouldn't make temporary changes. People need to make changes for life. And diets don't work. We've seen this. Short-term fixes don't work. What works is to say, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start eating better, and to really make those changes very gradually, very incrementally. The whole baby step approach. But not say, well, I'm going to lose 50 pounds for a wedding in 3 months. That's doomed to failure. But if you can say, I'm going to change my life, and so that's what we tell people for intermittent fasting. Don't do this for a week, a month, 2 months.
Not as a diet.
No. Figure out what you can do that you can maintain forever.
Now, I've kept you here a long time. In 8 minutes, we'll hit an hour, so we probably ought to wrap up by then. Okay. But one last thing. You've put mindfulness and meditation minutes in this app. Yes. Now, that's fairly new in the health arena. Yep. You've decided it's worthy of being one of the top 5 things that people track every day. Where did that come from? And talk to us about that.
Well, my team spent about a year, and I personally led it, an investigation of all the literature we could find to try to identify the practices, the simplest practices that can improve health. And so we did settle on these 5. And, especially in our modern society, it's just so easy to get stressed out. And stress is a bad thing. Cortisol is a bad thing. It's great when it does what it's supposed to do, right. From a wolf that we encounter when we're out hiking or something. But when it's elevated all the time, it inhibits repair. Cortisone is all about the short term. Cortisone is save me from that saber-toothed tiger. Right now I'm not really worried about my cholesterol or anything else. Just, help me run away and live another day. But when it becomes chronic, it's extremely deleterious to our health. It makes it harder to lose weight. It hurts our insulin sensitivity. It kind of synergizes negatively, with those other four pillars. And so I've just become a big believer, and the literature shows that, and you don't have to go to India and become a swami or a guru or anything. You could close your eyes and just do deep breathing for 5 minutes. Pranayama, which is just a simple rhythmic breathing, is extremely effective. You don't have to have any particular training or any expertise. So yeah, so the short answer is the evidence is there that it works. It helps to try to reduce your stress level. In a complex society where we're all kind of, we feel like hamsters running on some wheel half the time. It's really important just to take a few minutes, take a deep breath. You can have a measurable impact on your blood pressure, on other biomarkers. And so, yeah, it's just as important as the other four.
Yeah, it's interesting. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? Of these 5 things, we could take 1,000 people and do a survey and determine, what's the hardest one to implement. Of these 5, the hardest one for me would have been mindfulness and meditation.
Me too.
Yeah, when I started, 3 minutes felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
And
it's true. It's but you can start with 30 seconds. This baby step approach. I tell my kids, one of my dad's sayings is that the most powerful force in the universe isn't love, it isn't gravity, it's compound interest. It's the little things that you do consistently, whether it's, putting some money in a little savings account, or, just doing breathing exercises for 2 minutes every day. You do that over a period of time, and you look back and you go, my gosh, what a difference it added up to.
Have you read the book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you'd love it.
Oh, I'm the Slight Edge. Okay.
The Slight Edge. It's a bestseller, and I think it's one of the top 10 best personal development books ever written.
Oh, wow. I will definitely look that up.
For a while, I would buy them by the case, and I would give them to people. It was a giveaway for me to people in business or employees, whatever the case, or just someone I'd bump into, maybe having a tough time in life. Hey, try this book.
Yeah.
And I had many people come back and say, Dave, that was just mind blowing. It's just so good. It's an easy read. And for everyone listening, The Slight Edge by Jeff. Yeah, I think the paperback is $5 on Amazon.
Yeah, so I'll look for the Audible version. I love that for when I'm out hiking.
It's a really great book, but it just verifies what you already know and what you already said. But he has a wonderful way and analogies and stories, and of just really helping. Well, for me, it just really helped me internalize the principle you just said, because I feel like that principle that you taught just then is one of those that we all go, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
And then we don't do it.
Right. Just knowing it isn't enough.
Knowing it isn't enough. And I feel like The Slight Edge was the book for me that helped me take this from a thing that I thought I knew to something that really became meaningful and something that I'm like, no, now I know.
I will definitely look it up.
Yeah. I think you'll love it. Well, I have kept you a long time. We're bumping up against that hour mark. But I want just open it up to you to closing thoughts. You've had a successful life financially, and it sounds like you've got a great family and a lot going on and a lot ahead of you. And you really dove in with your team of experts into the health world. So why don't you just leave us with closing thoughts of whatever comes to mind, something you maybe didn't get to say but would like to, or something you think would really benefit people?
Well, I'm just passionate about trying to help reverse the situation we have in this country where we talk about health care, but it's really disease care. It's really shameful, the state of healthcare in this country. I think it's slowly starting to change. We're seeing functional or integrative medicine, become more and more popular. So more of a recognition that our behaviors have the biggest determinant, a bigger determinant on a bigger effect on our health than hospitals or doctors or the whole healthcare establishment. And what we do day to day can determine whether we suffer from Alzheimer's or type 2 diabetes or cancer, all of these horrible diseases. So it's just fun to first of all, to learn about it, and then to share it with other people that, we can take control of our own health. With the whole quantified self movement, it's pretty easy to get devices to measure different aspects of our health. So I'm just having a blast, really trying to see if we can make a little difference.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show. How do people learn more about you and get the app, and what resources have you got available?
Well, the app is in both the app stores. You just look for Lifeomic, Lifeomic is the name of the company, and go there for the website as well. But yeah, those are the easiest ways.
Wonderful. And I've got the app. I can vouch for it. I'm really enjoying it. You've done a great job. Like I said, I'm getting the testing done. I already upgraded. I'm paying the $3. It's totally worth it.
We appreciate it.
And I started a circle. It's
I just to mention our latest feature this week is that you can set up subscription circles. So you can set up a circle and say, it costs this much a month to join my circle.
Wow.
We're hoping that that will incentivize experts in all sorts of areas to create circles and act as resources to our user base.
It's interesting. I was going to ask you about that because I could totally, as a health coach, I could totally see that. And I wondered if you'd had any way of, and in my mind, I was picturing white labeling or some methodology, but obviously you guys have tackled this issue.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because currently my circle has one member, which is me. And no one pays anything. And I don't know if I would charge anything or not, but that's a really cool option. And for those of you listening, if you want to join my Nairobi circle, I will be promoting that to my customers. And cool. I do a transformation program. I do a 90-day transformation program. And this would be a cool way to do it.
Absolutely. We'd love to help you take that and put it in a form that we've got doctors doing ACL recovery programs and all sorts of different things. And to the user, they just show up as a to-do list in the app every day.
Oh, how interesting. Well, we'll have to talk more about that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay. Well, Don, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show.
And my pleasure.
And to those of you listening, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you health and success.